All right, everybody. Good evening. What's going on? You know who this is. You know what this is about. This is your brother Frank coming to you live and direct with another edition from Views from the Man Cave. All right. So welcome to View from the Man Cave, a place for honest, intellectual, and informative dialogue and discourse about all things related to masculinity and manhood, responsibility and respect, provision and protection. Let's talk about it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. All right, let's get into it. All right, y'all, here we go. So today, we're going to have a wine, wings, and wisdom session with my sister Shantina. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce her now. Let her say what she needs to say, and then we'll move on. Shantina, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm feeling good now. I got my wine, so
Okay, for sure. Yeah, I need to get some myself, man. I'm in a little drought right now. I'm a little dry, but I'm gonna figure it out.
all
Um,
right.
all right. So we'll start off. I just want to pick your brain about a few trending topics,
Okay.
and then we'll get into the meat of the live tonight.
Yeah.
Um, so let me see. Um, so we'll start off here. So I just want to pick your brain about this whole Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion situation. I'm not sure if you followed it, if you know what's going on, but if you do, what are your thoughts about it, the whole situation with them?
I haven't really been following it that much. I did listen to Gabe's his live about it last night. The only thing that bothers me is this whole narrative of, the protect Black women narrative. That's what's I guess rubbing me the wrong way, because
Mm,
it's saying a lot. And I have a brother, I have male cousins, and I would really be very hurt and disturbed knowing that they put their lives on the line because a group of women think that they have a right to be protected, when that protection really is more about being rescued. Because
hmm
as you stated before, there are things that come with protection. You can't just do what you want to do and run the streets, and then when you find yourself in danger, you're screaming, "Oh, well, I'm not protected." And my thing is, you protect people that that you love. Your wife, your daughters, your mom, aunties. Your clan, your tribe, your family, not just random people. And as a woman, I do things. I make sure I'm not out. I don't put myself in any type of danger.
Right.
I spend my time by myself. I'm in the house. If I need to go out, I'm always aware of my surroundings. I don't go out late at night. I don't go out at the dark. So I protect me. That's because I'm my responsibility. I don't put my well-being in the hands of other people outside of uh because I'm not married. So I'm not covered by a husband. But I worry about myself. I mean, what, 2 weeks ago, I was driving on 210 of all places, and 210 is the devil. um
hmm
and my car just went off on me. I mean, it started doing some kind of Harlem Shake thing, and luckily I got off the road and I managed to pull into a parking lot, and I had to wait on the tow truck. And the crazy part was, because of this COVID thing, the guy's like, well, you can't ride with me back to the house because, the COVID. So I had to walk. Luckily, I was close to home, but I had to walk 2 miles from the parking lot of the CVS where I had to pull in from the road. I had to walk to my house.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was out there walking like, 20 years a slave. So, or
Mm.
7 years or whatever. But I mean, I didn't come home and, no black man was here to help me, and black men. No, you do what you got to do. I was thankful. I have car insurance. I have I had tow service, and they towed my car back home. And I got here, and I called my cousin. I said, hey, some shit went down on my car. Can you come look at it? He came by. He found a problem and he fixed it. So I'm back on the road.
Yeah, is you hit the nail on the head with it. I think it's more so rescuing versus protection.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate, but I think a lot of black women just want to be rescued.
Yes.
People want to do whatever they want to do um, without any type of oversight or provision. And then when it hits the fan, they want to come back and look around and say,
Exactly.
hey, where is everybody? Why didn't anybody save me? From myself. You know what I mean? So I mean, that's a hard look in the mirror, but it's true. At the end of the day. And
Mm-hmm.
my whole feeling about it is, I watched Gabe's video as well. He did a great job on it. And so no one is suggesting that, this brother was right with what he did. I don't subscribe to a man putting his hands on a woman, let alone, shooting her in the foot. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
don't subscribe to that. But at the same time, you have to be cognizant of your surroundings and who you deal with.
Yes.
And so, I do have a daughter, and I would tell her when the time comes, I would tell her to be smart. And there's
Mm-hmm.
certain things in life that you can't escape. You can't shield yourself from, but at the same time, um, you do need to be cognizant of who you're around and the
Yes.
quality of people that you're dealing with.
Yes.
You can't, I can't expect, um, I can't go to the zoo and get in the cage with a lion and not expect him to eat meat. You know what I mean? That's
Exactly.
what lions do. You know what I mean? So,
That's what they do.
so right. So in order for me to be around certain people who do certain things and, they're capable of doing certain things, I can't, I could be disappointed. I could be hurt, but at the same time, I can't be blinded by the fact that that's who they are. That's who they portray themselves to be. So
Yes.
I can only, I can only look at people for, you know, how they show themselves. And so I
Mm-hmm.
can't look at a brother like that any other way outside of who he shows me, or what he shows me. So I don't subscribe. I know there's a huge narrative out now that people are calling her a snitch, you know what I mean? And for telling, because she just recently came out and started, talking about she recently just came out and said, who shot her, because before she hadn't really, put any names to the situation. So when she did that, people started calling her a snitch. And so I can't really subscribe to that either. Like my definition of snitching is obviously is completely different from these individuals here. I believe, look, if me and a friend of mine, we're both in the street, we're both selling drugs, we're both robbing, killing people, and he gets caught and he tells on me to get a lesser sentence or something like that, then that's a snitch. You know what I mean? We
Right.
we we live by the same code.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the same set, we're doing the same things. But for somebody, if I'm selling drugs on, in somebody's front lawn, a man who has his wife and children and, trying to live right and try to do the right things. And if he, calls the police on me to try to get me to move, you know what I mean? I can't look at him. I can't look at him like a snitch. He's not, in my opinion. He's somebody who, he lives by a different code. He's a square. So I wouldn't look at him or expect him to subscribe to the type of code I live by if I'm in the street. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I think this whole narrative about her, being a snitch is wrong. So, so I just wanted to pick your brain on that. Let me see who's up here. I see Rain and Woman. How you doing? Um, see Ghana, I see you. What's going on? Let me see who else is in here. My wife is in here as always, Miss Rasha Rivers. Shantelle, see everybody. Everybody else is filing in. Third Ward, NB. You know what I mean? Miss Nubian, I see you too. All right. So, Okay, so now I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you've seen this here, but I wanted to pick your brain about that too. So for those who don't know, this movie is coming out on Netflix September 9th. Obviously, it's called Cuties. I posted it. I posted it about 2 or 3 days ago, maybe a little bit farther back. It got a lot of traction. So, and I just wanted to talk about it here. So this film is coming out on Netflix. It's directed by a woman from the Senegal, and it's kind of loosely based on her life, kind of telling her story. But in this film, this 11-year-old girl from the Senegal, she's in a Muslim family. They moved to France, so they're in France and they're living in this poor housing project in France. And so this 11-year-old girl, um, she becomes fascinated with a neighbor of hers. And so this neighbor, she's French, and this neighbor has her own twerk team, her own twerk dance team. And so this young sister gets fascinated. And according to the description of the film, it says that she wants to embrace or explore her femininity. So she joins this twerk team at 11 years old, and they run around France twerking and making it pop or whatever. And that's really the whole basis of the story. So um, it's supposed to come out September 9th. As you can see, it's gotten a lot of pushback. A lot of people have spoken out against it. They don't want to see it. They think it's just another fetish film for pedophiles and things like that. So there's actually a petition going around. A lot of people, thousands of people have signed it in order to stop this film from coming out. So I didn't know if you had heard about it or seen anything about it, but I just wanted to pick your brain on that too, about this film and us allowing our daughters, our young girls to be over sexualized. What do you think?
Well, I first heard about it when you posted it on your timeline, and
Mm.
I was like, wow, really? Okay. I did hear about the petition, and I saw a post from somebody else that the series, or is it a series or just like a movie?
No, I think it's just a movie. It's a film.
Okay, because I heard from the post. I don't know how true it is or not, but it has been pulled from Netflix, so
Oh, good, good.
it won't be going because as you said, it got so much pushback. And I think when I read about it, these girls are like what, 11, 12?
Yeah, they're 11 years old.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, 11. So, and she wants to explore her femininity, you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wild, man. I'm gonna say this too. I got my sister Nicole in here, my big sister. Shout out to Nicole. And
Hey,
so
Nicole.
um so a lot of people are pushing this femininity thing, and they're doing it in a fraudulent fashion. My man Gabe had to he had to put some work in a few videos ago about it, with a certain content creator on YouTube. And there are a lot of people out here who are falsely pushing this narrative of femininity, and they're doing it in a fraudulent fashion. Us allowing our daughters to be over sexualized is not femininity. Women, regardless of what their age is, walking around half naked, what I mean, over sexualizing themselves, that's not femininity. You know what I mean? There's a time and a place
Sexuality.
for that. Right, right, right. There's a time and a place for that. Look, I'm married. I got two babies. I know what that's about. You know what I'm
You
saying? But
know about that,
at,
don't you?
absolutely, you know what I mean. I know about the shower head and all of that. At the at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying. There's a time and a place for that. You know what I mean. And so doing it like this in films, and putting our kids out there and over sexualizing yourself for likes and subscriptions and things like that to sell products. Man, I get it. Everybody's trying to hustle, make a dollar, get that name out there. I understand that, but make sure you're doing it the right way. You know what I mean? And the only women I see out here really doing it for real, really doing it the right way, is my sister Nicole, who's she's on a hiatus right now. She's got a wedding to plan and then family to be around and things like that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But when she comes back, you know what I mean, we're all gonna welcome her back with open arms. But
Mhm.
she's really the only one out here that's really pushing this thing the right way. Everyone else I see doing it, um, it's a finesse. It's let me use my body, let me use my sexuality in order to push femininity. And for people who do that, for people who subscribe to that, it's going to put you in a box, because these are the same women who will over sexualize themselves or allow themselves to be over sexualized, and then will come back later on and say, well, these men only want sex, or they only want my body, or they only want certain things. They only want the physical aspect of who I am as a person, when they really don't stop to think about the fact that that's all they're really showing men. That's all of the energy that they're really putting out there is just this over sexualized energy. You know what I mean? So
And it all ties
y'all stop.
into the topic, because I've stated before, this is the result of fatherlessness, the result of lack of masculinity in the homes. All of
Right.
this toxic, or maybe I shouldn't say toxic, but this uh other side of this feminine nature. And when you're raised around women and aunties and grandmas, they can't really, this is the result of it. You confuse male attention, and you think you have to go about exploring your quote unquote femininity, but you're not even doing it. You're doing it in I guess a bastardized manner. And this is why we have so much dysfunction. I can't even say in this country, but in the world now, because it's everywhere.
Right. I mean, it's I understand, as a man, men are very visual. We're visual beings. So we
Mm-hmm.
like things that are appealing to the eye. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That's going to get a woman, um with us, that's going to get a woman to the front door. You know what I mean? What's going to allow her to walk through that door and to get comfortable in that house is her level of femininity. You know what I mean? And her willingness to cooperate and complement, what we're doing, our vision, you know what I mean, for that household. So your looks are only gonna get you so far. You know what I mean? And if that's what you're leaning on, if that's what you're standing on, okay, I get it. A lot of people have lied to you. Your mother have lied to you. Me and Shantina are gonna talk about that in a minute. You know what I mean? But um these things aren't gonna hold weight. They aren't gonna stand the test of time. So
Mm-hmm.
I want women to understand that looks fade. You know what I mean? I don't care how beautiful you are. I don't care you know how big your breasts are, how big your cheeks are, how nice, how round they are. I get it. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, those things over time will fade. But what will never fade is your femininity, is your willingness to be soft, to be compassionate, to be
A
emotional,
woman.
to be a woman. You know what I mean? To be a woman, being a woman will never sag. You know what I mean? Being a woman will never droop on you. It'll never dry up. It'll never grow gray hair. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You being a feminine woman, that's going to stand the test of time. You know what I mean? The beautiful thing in that is you only gonna get better. You know what I mean? At that, if you put your mind to that.
And the sad thing is, we keep this world is run by this feminist mindset, and we keep the idea of feminine nature being a woman changes every year, because
Right.
everybody's in this rebellious mindset of, I don't have to follow this standard, or being this type of woman, that's just an idea from patriarchy. That's the unfortunate. I mean, I've shared my story as far as like being uh liking quote unquote feminine things with people, and I used to get attacked by women just for being for being well groomed, for fixing my hair, or wearing heels or wearing dresses, or just taking pride in my appearance. And I got pushback, and it was so confusing to me, because I don't understand this mindset of everybody wanting to look like a man, or not keeping yourself up. I mean, just basic things like hygiene. I mean, when the quarantine hit,
Right.
somebody said to me, "Well, if you're in the house all the time, why you still taking showers? Why you still taking baths?"
Come on. It was a woman who said this.
Yeah, and I was like,
Wow. Wow.
I said, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
Like nobody can smell it, so I should be all right.
look. I
Mm,
I tell people all the time, I give myself a pedicure year round. And I've been slacking as of late because I lost Roderick, so I was kind of, my little
right.
funk. But outside of that, I give myself a pedicure, all the time, year round, whether my feet are showing or not. And I used to get pushed back for that. Well, it's wintertime. You don't need to do a pedicure. Anybody gonna see your toes? And I said, well, I see them. I
Right.
matter.
Right.
I
It's,
don't want to look at no crusty feet.
yeah, it's man, it's sad, but femininity is not a costume, but a lot of women treat it like that. You know,
Yes.
that is something to put on, for a holiday, for a weekend, what I mean,
Mhm.
for,
Or to get a
you
man.
know,
And once you
or to
get
get a
comfortable,
man.
then you can go
Right.
back to being whatever. Yeah.
Right. Because I'm gonna do something on that too. Because, you know, just for the married folks, don't lose your femininity. I know you've been married, 10, 20, 30 years, but don't let that go. Don't ever get too comfortable where, you lose what it means to be a woman, and
Hmm.
think that it's okay because, you're married, you gave him kids, he's not going anywhere. Don't do that. You still um, have an obligation to yourself to be the best woman that you can be. And if you're married, you have an obligation and a responsibility to be the best wife you can be. And that's a part of it. You know what I mean? So ladies, don't ever lose that. Married ladies, don't ever lose that. Um, so the last topic I want to talk about before we get into it are these two sisters right here. So
Oh.
on the left, you have Lauryn Hill. You know what I mean? We all know her from her days in music with the Fugees and, her critically acclaimed classic solo album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And this young lady on the right is her beautiful daughter, Selah. Um, and so they were in the news recently. I posted about that as well and put up a video clip about it. But Selah came out and she did an interview and she did a video about her relationship with her mother and the lack of a masculine presence in her life. And she talked about how her and her mom didn't really have a great relationship, and her mom was kind of cold to her, and her mom would beat her all the time, and she would watch her mom, you know, act in a very masculine fashion towards her father. And her father wasn't around. I'm not sure if it was because of that or what else was going on in his life, but he wasn't around, and so it really affected Selah. And she talked about it. If you want to see some of it, you can go on my Facebook page and find it. I think it was I put it up a few days ago, but but you can go on YouTube as well. Just search Selah, Selah Hill, and you'll get a whole bunch of videos will pop up about it. The whole video she did was about, I think, 45 minutes to an hour long, where she just talked about her life growing up with her mom and how it was very tough for her, and how she has this love-hate relationship with men because of the relationship she saw her mom have with her father, and her not having a masculine presence in her life, in the home, somebody that a man that she can get advice from, get game from, get love from. You know what I mean? And so she just talked about how it bothered her and how she has a love-hate relationship with men because of it. She hates these men, but she said, and I'm quoting her now, she said, "I hate these men, but I love them because I know I need them, but I don't like them because I've never really had a great experience with them." And so that was kind of a foundational principle that I wanted us to kind of allude to tonight, as it relates to mothers and young girls, and not having that masculine energy around them, so that they can learn from it and kind of learn how to be around it and how to move and how to cooperate with it. So what do you think about that, Shantina?
I thought I was actually, I commended her for, telling her story and being open to share. The only thing that bothered me was the comments that came from women. And it was, there was no empathy. That it was, oh, girl, whatever, you got money, girl, whatever, you have a famous mother. You shouldn't be
Mm,
online telling family business. And it's not really that big of a deal, and all Black people get beat. We all get beat by our parents. So what's the big deal?
Right.
So that's the feedback that she got. That's what really I found to be very disturbing. I don't even know why I'm surprised, because that's basically the mentality of a lot of Black people now. The narrative is, well, getting spanked, getting beat, getting abused is normal,
Right.
and growing up fatherless is normal. So I mean, when I tell other groups, if they're white, Asian, or Hispanic or whatever, when I tell them I lost my father when I was 3, I get that they always express their sorrows. When I tell Black people, it's just, oh, well, we all grow, we all don't, nobody has a father. That's just life.
Right. I mean, it's tough, like in my personal life, my oldest cousin, he lost both of his parents
Mm-hmm.
when he was a newborn,
Mm-hmm.
because of a domestic violence issue between the two of them. And and so just on the outside looking in, it's greatly affected him. And
Yeah.
I've seen how some people around him treat him. Like, um, he's the oldest of us. So he's in his, 40s, mid to late 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so people look at him, and they've always looked at him like, okay, it's sad, but you're gonna have to get over that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you're gonna have to, and I
Exactly.
understand what they're trying to do, you know what I mean? But there still wasn't as much, empathy or understanding as there could have been. You know what I mean? And I can only imagine. I can't imagine, what it would be like. Like, even now, like, I never really had a great relationship with my father, but I still have a father. You know what I mean? Even though we don't talk, I could pick up the phone and call him. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I just, because of certain issues that we have between each other, I feel like I shouldn't be the one that had to do that. But at the end of the day, if I really wanted to talk to him and hear his voice, I could pick up the phone and call him. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
I can't imagine what it would feel like to maybe get to a point in your life where I want to do that and he's not here. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And
Yeah.
and MB made a great point. She says a mother can distort her child's image of men. And I know, Shantina's gonna cook with that. We could run with that all night.
Mm-hmm.
But it's true. But just just from a male point of view, asking a woman, why, Shantina, in your opinion, why would a mother distort her child's image of men? Why would she do that?
Probably
In your
because
opinion?
probably because the mother doesn't even understand men. I listened to like a video or show of I'm not gonna say names. I'll just say it was a male panel, and
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about the matriarchy, and the issue is generational. The matriarchy. I mean, even when I was growing up, only thing I heard about men was they're no good, they're useless, they're trash, they ain't shit. Um, who needs them? Who wants them? Um, I had one aunt. I mean, she talked about her husband like, I mean, the way she just, I mean, we would be out family functions and she would talk about how she just could not stay. I just do not want to go home. I'd rather just stay out all night. I just hate being around him. I mean, she hated him so bad that she wouldn't retire from her job just so she can go to work just to not be around him.
Oh,
And the
wow.
only reason why she retired was because it was kind of like a forced retirement, because her friends had moved on, they retired, and she just didn't want to be in the office with a lot of the younger people who were coming in. So that's the only reason why she retired. But
Mm.
when you grow up around these women who are not, particularly, I guess, feminine, and who have
Mm-hmm.
that mindset of men are useless, we grew up hearing that.
Right.
And me, I grew up without my dad, so I had no idea what it what it was like to even relate to a man, or really relate to myself, because that's just how dysfunctional it was, because I didn't even know who I was. That's just how really, that's how bad it was. And like what MB was, when she made the statement of they distort a child's image of men, well, they also distort the image of yourself. So when you're growing up with
Right.
a dysfunctional parent, you don't even know who you are, because they can't even, everything is just, it's just chaotic, it's crazy. So you're growing up, and I'm speaking for me, I'm growing up trying to figure out who I am, and I didn't really start to do that until my 30s. Like that was like my rite of passage, because I didn't get a childhood. I was always, because I'm the oldest, so I was put in that parenting role. So I was taken out of everything that I was supposed to be doing to cater to these mothers and these other dysfunctional women, to seek, I was seeking validation from them, because I was just trying to figure out who I was. So we grew up,
Right.
we're going through life trying to keep up with the rest of society. And we're just wandering around trying to figure out who we are and what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And unfortunately, some people don't even, they waste their whole lives. I'm just never knowing who they are. They never wake up. They never want to self-reflect and make these changes. Because at
Right.
the end of the day, we're not allowed to say, well, mama, you fucked up. We're not allowed to say that, because,
Right. You better not.
mommy is,
'Cause-
she's God. She's the next best thing to Jesus Christ. So we're not allowed to call her on her shit.
right. Ever. I mean, don't
Ever.
think like, when you get grown, you could do it either. Nah, you
Yeah,
can't
you
do it.
can't.
You know what
You
I mean?
cannot.
No.
You can burn, they can burn your face like Penny in good times, and you still better not say nothing about it.
Mm-mm. Um, so yeah, let me shout out to Shantelle, Sunshine State, Sunshine Girl out there in Florida. What's going on? She said she was able to articulate what so many Black women go through growing up, and I commend her for that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for saying that. I believe it. I know it's true. Even on the male side of the game, because we're affected by it too, growing up in single parent households a lot of the time. And so a lot of us, I think as Black people, period, we really struggle growing up trying understanding how to articulate our feelings, because a lot of us, we grew up in households where, you know, your parents were dominant. You couldn't say anything. You couldn't do anything. You had to stay in the kid's place. You didn't have an opinion. I
Nowhere to
pay
be
the
seen and
bills.
not heard.
You're supposed to be seen and not heard, and things like that. Absolutely. So I know my own, my brother and I talk about it all the time. And I struggle with it, growing up, understanding how to articulate myself, because our parents grew up in an era, in a generation where you didn't speak unless you were spoken to. You didn't have an opinion. You know what I mean? You didn't have feelings. You know what I'm saying? And if you did, it didn't matter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because you weren't, you weren't paying on anything. And so a lot of us grew up like that. So when we get older, um, it affects us. We don't know how to communicate. I remember when I was dating my wife, and we would have conversations, and I would get really loud and passionate. You know what I mean? And she would say, baby, why are you yelling? Like, you don't have to yell, and I didn't even know it, that I was doing it. But, I laughed about it, and I told her, I said, hey, look, I grew up in a family where, we argued about everything. We argued about the remote, we argued about cereal. You know what I'm saying? We argued
You grew up
about
in
the color of
survival
the
mode.
carpet. We grew up in survival mode. And so in order for you to get a word in, you had to be loud. You had to yell. You know what I mean? If you wanted to say anything, you know what I mean? Or you would get drowned out. You'd be invisible. So I had to learn over time, even during adulthood, how to
Yes.
articulate myself, how to say, I feel like this, you know what I mean? Or I don't like that. Or maybe, I want to do it like this. Or I don't necessarily agree with that. I didn't know how to do that in a way that wasn't argumentative, that wasn't passive aggressive. You know what I mean? And a lot of us grew up like that because of,
Too
because
too
of our
many of
upbringing.
us. Too many of us
Yeah.
grow up like that, and we wonder. I've said before. I said you wonder why we can't even grow up and connect to the opposite sex, or connect to each other just on a basic level, because we're so far behind the dominant society, because they already have a leg up, because they come from families. And I'm not saying that because you come from a 2-parent home, it's perfect. Everybody has their issues and their problems, but Black people as a whole, if 70% of the women are having children out of wedlock, guess what? That's a lot of people who are growing up behind the curve. So when you get older and you're trying to go out and make your way in society, you can't even relate to the people who are already operating on an adult level, because a lot of us suffer from arrested development. You got people in their 20s and 30s who are still operating on a 14-year-old mindset, or maybe even a 5-year-old mindset, because of a trauma they experienced or anything. And the problem is we make it normal. It's normal to be stupid and silly at 25 and 30 years old.
Right.
Because we're just stuck in that mindset. And even, you mentioned how you were communicating with Rasha. I know I said something to Roderick one time, and he was like, listen, I need to bring something to your attention. He was like mad because of the way I was communicating. And I said, I used to tease him about like when he would do his laundry, and I said, yeah, you washing your funky ass drawers again, huh?
Mm.
And he ain't like that. He said, let me tell you something. Because this is like the second or third time you said that. I don't like that.
Mm.
And I said, oh, and I apologized. And he said, I don't know where you get that from. And I said, sweetie, I apologize. It was my poor attempt of trying to be humorous or try to, make you laugh or tease you. He said, well, you failed. I don't like it. And I said, I'm sorry, it will never happen again. But I explained to him, I said, growing up, because I grew up in DC is hood. That's just how that's how we talked in my house. Like my brother, we used to talk to each other like that. Like, what your stupid ass doing? Shut up. We would,
Right.
we would like curse at each other. And I'm not saying it's right, but that's just how we spoke. And as I got older, I tried to work my way out of it. But, when you do things in your childhood, it sticks with you. So sometimes you really have to check yourself or allow yourself to be checked to make these corrections, even if it's for your, that person that you're with. And I explained to him, I said, that's just how we talk. And he said, well, I don't like it. So don't talk to me like that.
Right.
So
Right.
it still work. Even at my age, I still have to work at, releasing or getting rid of like a lot of my dysfunctional patterns of my ways. And it's difficult because they say the subconscious, you're ruled by that. Like that's part of your childhood, and that's like 95% of your brain. So I'm living my life now trying to live a conscious life, but it's only 5%. So I'm always like, thinking. I think I do it too much. Like I'm a kind of overthinking all the time because I'm thinking, I'm like, what am I doing? Am I doing this right? Am I communicating properly? Am I talking too much? Am I not talking enough? So
Right.
it's just, yeah, this whole dysfunction, how we grew up, it really, it's a lot of work to do. This is why a lot of people won't take the time to do the work to self-reflect, because it's a lot of work. I mean, I spent my entire 30s 10 freaking years
Mm-hmm.
trying to, do this work. And I'll probably be doing it for the rest of my life, because it's a lifelong thing when you having to make these corrections. But it's not easy at all, and people don't want to do the work. That's why a lot of folks are just going to stay in that space, because a lot of folks don't want to change. It's the conditioning. So it's unfortunate, but
Right. And let me show y'all real quick what that work looks like. You know what I mean? That's what it looks like right here. You know what I mean? So this is Shantina's book, Soul Work, Soul Food and Sea Change. All right. Life Lessons in Retrograde from the House of L. So her book is on Amazon. You know what I mean? There are a few people I know for a fact in the chat who have it. I have it. Shantelle has it. It is a great read. You know what I mean? All of the things that I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about tonight. Shantina really poured her heart out in this book. You know what I mean? And that's what soul work is all about. That's what soul food and sea change is all about. You know what I mean? Pouring your heart out, being honest with yourself, understanding who you are, the experiences that, helped you to become the person that you are, and being willing to fix those things. You know what I mean? To fix the things that you can control yourself. You know what I mean? You can't fix the men out here. You can't fix the world out here. But the that thing that you can fix the most is yourself. And so
Mm-hmm.
focus on that. And there've been some solid comments in the chat. I know MB talked about her relationship with her father, and her mom, and her mom being very masculine. I would say this too. If you grew up in a single parent household and your father's around, have a conversation with him. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Um, I'm not trying to disrespect single moms, but there's always two sides to everything. You know what I
exactly.
mean? And so I had to do the same thing with my father. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't let him off the hook for not being there. I didn't let him off the hook for not, because I'm just being candid here. That's what we do on View from the Man Cave. I'm honest. So my father never, in my entire life, he never lived more than 15, 20 minutes away from me. I grew up in Raleigh my entire life. My father was there. He never lived more than 15 minutes away from me. And we never really had a relationship. He never called. He never came through. He never pulled up on me um, at
Mm.
all. So I never got him. I never let him off the hook for that. But, we had conversations and he told me things that I did not know. You know what I mean? And so it helped to bring a certain level of balance to me, to my understanding of the situation that I was brought into. So
Mm-hmm.
I would just be mindful that if you have a father around, I know you grew up and your father was nothing, he never wanted to be nothing and things like that, but just for your sanity, for you to bring some balance to your life, if he's around, if you can reach out to him, give him a call and talk to him, and you'll learn some things you didn't know. I promise you that. And you'll say, wow, like, that really happened, or she really said that, or she really did that. You never know. And, it's always, parts of stories that get left out. You know what I mean? And people do that naturally in order to make themselves look better. You know what I mean? On either side of the fence. So if you can do it, reach out, man, have a conversation with them and, and, and see what's good. So Shantelle, let me read this one. She says, honestly, I didn't start becoming comfortable with fully expressing my feelings, desires, and opinions until about 2 years ago when I joined the inner beauty movement. Um,
Right.
wow, that's I know Nicole was in here earlier, and hopefully she's still in here. I know she's busy, getting ready for her wedding and spending time with her family and things like that. But um, our sister has had a huge impact on all of us, men and women. And there are a lot of people who because of her and her movement, whether it be the Healing Group or the Future Wives Club, or the defense team, have found avenues to express themselves, and they never had the opportunity to do that before. You know what I mean? And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to get into it as it relates to mothers and daughters primarily, but we're going to branch off and do some other things too. But um, it's very important, man. A lot of us grew up with a lot of pain, and there are a lot of frauds out there who take advantage of that pain. And I'm going to wind up doing a live or maybe some recorded content on these frauds, man, because there are a lot of wizards in Oz. You know what I mean? There are a lot of wizards in this land called Oz out here, and there because there are so many of us, so many young women out here who are in Oz who are missing something. They don't they're lacking the courage to be feminine. You know what I mean? Or they don't have the heart to be feminine, or they don't have, the brain to be feminine. And so they're in this land of Oz trying to find their way, and people are telling them, oh, there's a wizard over here. You know what I mean? She dressed half naked, but there's a wizard over there that can help you get all this stuff that you want. Or you have these brothers out here who are, red pill, whatever type of pill, MGTOW, save yourself, black man, whatever, who are in this land of Oz because they're missing something. You know what I mean? They
Mm-hmm.
don't feel adequate. They don't feel like they can find a feminine black woman out here that can nurture a household, that can support him, that can compliment him. They don't feel like that exists. So they're in this land of Oz, walking around, lacking the heart, lacking the courage, you know what I mean, lacking the brain. And so people in there telling them, oh, you go over here, this guy got you. He's not living nothing he's saying, but he got you. You know what I mean? He lies about, who he's with or the quality of woman that that he's dating, but oh, go see that wizard over there. You know what I mean? You have so many Black people who are struggling. We're all, to a certain degree, we're healing, man. We all suffer from post-traumatic slavery disorder, in some shape, form, or fashion. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're living in this land of ours. We're moving around. We don't have the heart. We don't have the heart to embrace ourselves. We don't have the brain to express ourselves. We don't have that courage. So we're walking around ours trying to find our way. And then you got scammers out here. You got people scamming about a damn school that everybody know they hustling. You got people, with real estate projects that everybody's finding out is a fraud. You know what I mean? You got all these people going on. And so you have all these wizards out here in Oz, man, who are fakes. They look the part, they sound the part, but when you walk behind that curtain, they're nothing like the person that they have portrayed themselves to be. And so that's why I fell in love with the inner beauty movement and the defense team, because it's authentic. It's real. You know what I mean? It talks about, holding yourself personal, holding yourself accountable for your own decisions, and looking at your life and really doing a self-assessment and figuring out, where you are, where you want to be, and how far you have to travel to get, from A to B. You know what I mean? So
You said when you said fraud, I was thinking about something, but those people, the crazy part is they don't see themselves as a fraud, or they don't see themselves
right.
as being the land of Oz, because we live in this my truth society, and everybody's living by their own personal narrative. Now, the person that, like I said, I'm not gonna mention names, but the person that Gabe did a live the other night.
Mm-hmm.
I used to follow that person. I think this is before I found Nicole, I think. And the reason I stopped following that person was because she kept bringing up her history, her past, as far as her childhood, of being abused and going through a lot of things. And I could relate to that because that's my experience. But at the same time, I felt that it was just a group of women who were trauma bonding, and they were kind of
Mm-hmm.
still in that space and using that as an excuse to not grow up, if that makes sense.
Right.
And also, a lot of people can relate. I don't have kids. I don't relate to the whole, having children young and being a single mother and now they're grandmother. That's something I don't relate to. But too many of our sisters relate to that. They have that story and they relate to it. So when you bring up living traditionally or living functionally, it's that's why we get a lot of pushback. And I
Right.
see it online every day. I mean, people, besides Nicole, if they post about tradition and marriage, it's just women from nowhere, even a couple of men, but they're giving their opinion, and this is the modern times, and we don't need that, and that's the old days, and everybody's living, everybody's surviving, and we making it as best as we can, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I told somebody, I said, I don't even, I think that the small minority of Black people who get it will prosper, but there's a majority of us who will just be left behind because we refuse to, we just want to stay in that. And we've made this whole matriarchy acceptable. It's normal. I mean, the fact that I get attacked for not even having children as an unmarried woman is just, I never in my life thought I would be experience this. I never thought that people would just go in on me like that. Never. I'm like, I'm not a
Yeah.
married woman. Why is this even a topic or a question? Where are my children? What are you talking about?
Yeah. We fear what we don't understand. And, you know, it's become, it's a shock in our community, even now, for, a woman to be a certain age and not have kids. You know what I mean? And
When I
and,
turned
and you're sitting
30,
here.
OMG. It was, what's wrong with you?
Mm.
Uh, does your thing work? And if something's wrong with it, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I was like, I was like, am I? And the sad part is, it's like when I was a teenager, that's all people expected because my mom had me, when she was she was a senior in high school. So people, it was like I got bashed for repeating the dysfunctional cycle. But then when I didn't do it, now I'm being bashed by people my age and younger because I don't have children. So it's like I got beat up from both sides. So I never got a break.
Yeah, we don't understand it, and and it's sad. It's really unfortunate, to be a woman, in her mid to late 20s, early 30s, and people, looking at you and wondering, if something's wrong with you
Yeah.
because you don't have kids. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there are Black women out here who are going to not have kids unless they're married. You know what I mean? I'm not disrespecting anybody. Things do happen, and we're in different places and different spaces in our life. But there are certain, Black women out here who are going to say, look, I'm going to,
For me, it's all or
I'm,
nothing.
right. You know what I mean? It's all or nothing for some ladies out here. You know what I mean? And they're not going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they're not going to be, go out here and be a woman and have sex and, and be in relationships and things like that. But there's certain women out here who are going to say, look, I'm not having any kids unless I'm a wife. And those kids are going to be from my husband, period. You know what I mean? So, and it's just a shame. It's unfortunate that in our community, that's looked at as something that's foreign. You know what I mean?
It is very
it's,
foreign.
it's something that, is not, we don't understand it. I've never gotten it. But when you grow up in an environment where you don't see it, it's hard for you to understand something that you don't see or that you've never had a relationship with. So,
When I was in basic training, because I joined late. I was 30 when I joined. And do you know the drill sergeant? She cursed me out. What'd she say? She's like, Spencer, you got children. I said, no, drill sergeant. Why not? Why not, soldier? I said, I forgot what I said to her. I don't even remember. I don't even think I mentioned marriage. I forgot what it was, but she said, that's selfish as fuck.
What's selfish about that?
Not me not having children, because she was a 26-year-old single mother. That's why I was selfish. But you know who came to my defense? The lesbian.
Who's that?
She said, nah, Battle, nah, she ain't selfish. She smart, Battle.
Hey, man, it's wild, man. It's a strange world we live in, especially in our community, man. We do so many things backwards. So
I went to the gynecologist when I was 27, and when I went to check in, the lady was shocked because it was an abortion clinic. I didn't even know. And when I got in there, I just saw a room full of women. They were crying. I was like, because I'm still like, kind of like, what's going on here? What did I walk into? And so when I went to check in, and she said, are you here for an abortion? I grabbed my chest. I said, ma'am, I'm just here for an exam. Do you know when I told her that I was there for an exam and I was there for birth control, do you know she rolled out the red carpet? She gave me my forms. She was like, Miss Spencer, what kind of birth control do you want? We got the shot, we got the pill, we got the ring, whatever you want. I mean, they treated me like royalty. And when the other girl, she was checking me in, she asked if I had children. I said, no, I don't have children. And then she said, well, how many pregnancies? I was 27 and I told her I had no pregnancies. Do you know she almost passed out because I said I had no pregnancies at 27? It was just so foreign.
She saw a ghost.
Yeah, she looked at me and she said, you had no pregnancies. And I looked at her, I said, no, I have not. And I'm in my mind, I'm thinking like, am I on another planet? Am I in the Twilight Zone? What is so shocking about an unmarried 27-year-old girl never being pregnant? Like, what is this? And the sad part is, like, years later, when I went to, I think I was having some smart lipo procedure on my stomach, and it was in North Virginia, like a white neighborhood or whatever. And I think the girl who checked me in, she was either white or Hispanic or something. And when I told her, she asked the same questions, any pregnancies, you have children. And I told her no. And she didn't even, She just said, okay, all right, Miss Spencer, I'm checking you in. So, you know, you can go in the back room and change, do whatever. But it's sad that when you're around other groups and they don't even respond that way. But when you're around our people, it's like a shock to come across somebody of a certain age who's never been pregnant. And that's another issue that come up because of my age. People just think, oh, well, you just had numerous abortions. And I'm saying to myself, well, do y'all realize that pregnancy is preventable? There's a small window every month
Right.
that allows you to get pregnant. Now you can either get on birth control or just avoid those days of ovulation. But when I explain it that way, people just, it's like it's so foreign to them. And I'm like,
Yeah. I said it. Let me see. Shout out to my bro C Boog just came in. Dom Game Division. Boog, what's going on?
hey, see, Boogie.
Um, um, Afro Being Magazine. I see you too. Always. You know, I see you too. Always showing love and support for the channel. Always, sharing my tweets on Twitter and all of that. I see you. Much respect. I've always said it from the beginning, man. Like, you know, only the only women who have kids are women who want kids. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? There's so many ways of preventing it, with condoms and the shot and all of that. Even if you don't want to do those things, like you said, there's a small window. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
women who don't
Avoid
want
the
to,
window.
women who don't want to have them, don't. You know what I mean? And it it is what it is.
You know how many
Um,
times I went on ovulation.com and checked the dates and shit? I'd be like, let me. And then too, I know my body, so I already know the symptoms of ovulation. But I mean, that's just me. I'm just very, intuitive. So I know my body. But I mean, it just it. I just found it very disturbing. But it's like you're gonna attack me because I don't have a baby. Like, are you kidding? I mean, even my sister when she had her baby at 19, I was 30, and she went ham on me. Well, when you going why you ain't never had no baby?
right.
And I was like,
I mean, I think
whew,
somebody said in the chat, man, we love the hustle. Like we love the struggle. You know what I mean? It's something about the struggle. It's something about, you know, riding around with $10 in your pocket and having to make it to the end of the week. It's something about that we glorify, that we
it's sad, and I
glamorize. You
for
know what I
that too.
mean? And yeah, it's
When I'm
tough.
around,
I get it.
yeah,
I
I,
get it.
I, I
If you,
don't.
yeah,
I don't like it. I don't get it, and I really hate the fact that I've been around my own people who will say things to me like, "I could tell you ain't. I could tell you ain't been through nothing just by looking at you." So
mm,
it's like they measure my blackness based on my appearance or
right,
the fact that they don't see a struggle or they don't see hardship in me. So that makes me less black,
right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. All right, y'all. So, um, I put a post up earlier this month, and that post became the reason why we're having this live tonight. All right. When I put it up, my sister Shantina said right there on the post, she said, "Look, we got to do a live on this. I want to talk." So I'm gonna let my sister talk. My sister loves wings. She loves wine. You know what I mean? Um, so we're gonna talk. We got the wine on deck. We got some wings. We're gonna talk
Yes.
about this thing. You know what I mean? We definitely between the two of us, we definitely got a whole lot of wisdom. So we're gonna bring it to y'all tonight. So I'm gonna read that post, and then I'm gonna let my sister go wherever she wants to go with it. And I'm just going, I'm gonna support her and compliment her however, she needs to be complimented. So I said, ladies, look, I said, if you have a daughter, now I wrote this and I was specifically talking to mothers, single mothers. So I said, look, I said, ladies, I said, if you have a daughter and you're a single parent, tell her how hard it is. Tell her that you are tired, overextended, and stressed sometimes, even if you don't look like it. Tell her that slinging your cat around freely in the name of liberation did not heal your wounds or mend your heart. Tell her the truth. If you don't, you are failing her. You should want the next generation of women to be better than your generation. How can they be better if you don't teach them better? Okay, I put that out there, and the comments got crazy. And my
Yes.
sister said, "Hey," she said, "I want to talk about this. Let's do a live on it." So I'm gonna let my sister do one of the things that she does best and that's express herself. So you go wherever you want to go with it, and I'm with you.
Well, my question is, what inspired the post?
Well, so I get frustrated sometimes because I'm a very passionate brother. I don't know if it's the
Yeah.
Scorpio in me or whatever,
It's that
but
Scorpio. Yes.
I'm very passionate about things, and
Yes.
so I don't like how we struggle in our community as people, and we don't really give game to the next generation. We don't really tell them the truth, and I think it happens more so with women, with Black women. Um, I think a lot of times Black women are caught up in this whole narrative about being strong and this Black girl magic and doing all these things that sometimes they forget to tell their daughters the truth. You know, um, it gets under my skin um, when you have a mom who struggled and who's going through so many different things in her life, and then she has kids and they do the same things in their own life, and I just don't understand that. And I'm like, okay, I understand that you're going to have kids who are going to rebel. I get that. You can give them all the game in the world, they're going to go their own way, but a lot of times they're really not telling them the truth. You know what I mean? Tell them the truth. Tell them how hard it is for you to be a single mom. You're tired. Look, I have a lot of friends, family members, what I mean, who are single moms, and they look great. They look beautiful. They go out. They look body snatched. All of that. They look amazing. Okay, but them women are tired. Them women are stressed out. Okay, they have to do all this stuff by themselves. You know what I mean? There's no break. I'm sitting here, my wife and I will finish up for the day. The kids will be in the bed. We'll just be laying in the bed talking. Kids will be asleep, and we'll just sit there and talk about how tired we are. You know what I mean? Like worked and we cleaned and we cooked and the babies needed this and we had to go do that and all of this, and we're tired. And I'm like, we have each other though. You know what I mean? When I come home, I can look at my wife and say, okay, these kids wore her out today. So I could say, baby, look, you go upstairs, you get you some wine, you go upstairs, run the bath, you chill. I got the kids tonight. I'll feed them. I'll feed them. I'll run them a bath. I'll play around with them. We'll hang out. I'll punish them on the video games, and then I'll put them in the bed. You know what I mean? And you relax. You know what I mean? Because you've been with them. I know they ran you up a wall. They're very energetic kids, and so we have that dynamic, that balance where I can see she's going through that, and I can say, okay, let me take you away from that. Even though I've been outside the crib or I've been working doing my thing, I can just sense that okay, she needs a break. You know what I mean? She's tired. You know what I mean? Um, so I can give her that. But when you're a single mom, you don't have it. And instead of telling these young girls the truth about how hard it is, they want to glamorize it like it's a badge of honor. Like I did this, I did it by myself, and I didn't need anybody. And I stayed up at night and I worked 3 jobs and I struggled. And you know what I mean? I ate syrup sandwiches so you can eat and all. And I'm like, tell these girls the truth. Because when you tell them the truth, the hope is that they're going to grow up and they're going to learn from your mistakes. That's what wise
Yeah.
people do. Wise people learn from the mistakes of other people, not their own mistakes.
Well, see that, and that's the reason why I said, can we do a show about it? Because when I think the first word was that you wrote was tell your daughters.
Right.
And from my experience, first, it's going to be different for every child because from my perspective, I'm the firstborn. My sister's the baby. A lot of girls
Mhm.
grow up with single parent homes, but they're the only child. So every daughter or every child from a single parent home, their experience or their narrative is different. But for me, I'll say this: my mom didn't have to tell me nothing. She didn't have to tell me it was hard. She didn't have to tell me it was a struggle. She didn't have to tell me nothing because I watched her every single day. I saw the hardships. I saw the struggle. I saw the frustration. And from a very young age, I knew in my heart and my soul that that was something that I absolutely did not want to replicate. Also, because as I said before, I was placed in the parental role. So I had to really kind of look after the third child that she had, because once she was over it with her father, he went on. So of course everything is thrown onto me. I have to step in and look after the young ones. So for me, it was like, hell no, I'm not going through this. I remember when my sister was born, I was 11. When they brought her home, I saw my mother getting up in the middle of the night 2 or 3 times a night to feed her. Um, I spent my summer break taking care of a baby. I couldn't go outside and play. I had no time of my own because uh I'm trying to think, was her dad still around at that time? I don't If he was around, he was asleep, because he used to do that a lot. Like, he worked at nights, he would come home during the day and sleep. So I was always the one, a lot of times, in charge, having to prepare baby milk and formula and all of this stuff for a child that I didn't bring into the world. Now, when my sister was growing up, it was different for her. She didn't see it as a struggle. She didn't see it as hardships. She didn't see it that way. So for her, having a child at 19, it was just no big deal. It was the way of life. It was, oh, well, whatever, because mommy, she was a single mother and she did it, so whatever. And this narrative of women doing it on their own, they're not doing it on their own. They have a village and they have a support system. And that support system is always either their mother, their grandmother, aunties, and other female cousins. Everybody steps in and they call it the village. So this idea of getting married and finding a man, men are looked at now as an accessory. It's just, oh, well, if you get a husband, you just got lucky. But you don't have to
Right.
get married to have children. It's just no big deal.
Right. You
And
know.
I have younger cousins, my millennial cousins, and my sister. When they started having their kids, um, when they weren't married, they still were kind of looking at me like, I guess they were scratching their head, because they couldn't understand why I was still single and didn't have children. They just didn't understand it, because um, to them it was just no big deal to not. And I had this discussion with a gentleman. We were corresponding earlier,
Hmm.
and I explained to him. I said, when I was growing up, there was always this standard that was set for me. For some reason, I had to get married, or that was always stressed. Like, it's better to get married and then have your children. But my frustration was, well, if it was so fucking good, then why did my mother never do it? Or why was it never, what was so bad? Like, you want
Right.
tradition from me, but you couldn't give it to me.
Mm.
And also, a lot of us, when we're coming from these single parent homes, and I forgot who I was having a discussion with. I said, and I wanted to ask you too about it.
Okay.
For me, I was never even considered or looked at as wife potential because of my background, because I came from a quote unquote broken home. So I was never even considered for marriage. It was like, oh no.
Mm.
Like, who are your parents? Your mother? No, no. And um, I don't know if everybody knows, my parents, they were teenagers when they had me, and years later they had my sister, and then he died, and my mother had my younger sister by a different man. So, people looked at us as, yeah, they see my mother. She's very young looking, and everybody always thought she was my sister, maybe a little bit older. But here's this woman who has these 3 children, no husband, by 2 different men. And yeah, it was like, no, they need to stay over there with that, because they can't come over here with that nonsense. So, and I think that's really probably maybe it triggered something in me when I saw your post, because I was like, well, if we're telling daughters to not repeat the cycle, then what is it specifically that we're preparing them for? Because from what I've seen, a mother who has children and she's not married, then um, how can she prepare her daughter to be a proper wife if that mother wasn't in that same situation, because I have a cousin who got married at 23, but her parents were married and they prepared her for marriage. And that man that she married, he came to her father and asked for her hand in marriage. For me, that was out of the question because my father's not here. And, like I said, my mother's not married. So nobody was going to come to my mother and say, hey, yeah, I want to marry your daughter.
Right. I mean, and I know my wife is in the chat, and I've always spoke candidly and very honestly on this channel. I think that's the best way to,
Yes.
to help people and to kind of, express myself and be someone that people can look to and learn from. And my wife experienced that as well. Her father passed away right before it was before I met her. I never had a chance to meet her biological father or the man who raised her. The man that she looked at like a father. They both passed away before I met her. And so, I literally had to, when I decided that I wanted to marry her, I asked the closest man to her. I asked her brother. When I proposed, we went to. When I was growing up, I would always go. When I was in the Army and I would come home, I would always go to see my grandmother. She passed away in 1989. She was the bedrock of the family. Obviously, I still don't think some of us have gotten over that. But hold on one second. Let me put this charger on real quick. So when I decided that I wanted to marry her, we went to her father's grave, here, and I asked for his hand. You know what I mean? I asked for her hand in marriage, and I told him there that even though he wasn't here, that she wouldn't have anything to worry about, as long as I'm alive.
What was what was the grade at?
It was in PG. It was over. It was close to. Yeah, it was the one close to Suitland Metro. I think that's it.
Oh, it's over there. Okay.
Yeah, and
I know what you're talking about.
So, but I'll say this. I mean, it's very shocking that you said that you kind of felt like, or you got the feeling from people that you weren't marriage material because of your family. Because from where I sit, most of our families have a little bit of ratchetness to them. We got a little bit of issues and drama and traumas and things like that. So,
well, you live in PG County, and the dynamics between, and I'll say this was back in the 90s, and PG County, or maybe even some areas of Montgomery County, the further out you go, the more traditional, and the tax bracket is different. Now, during this time, I think we were living in DC, and then we moved to Suitland. But again, and I even, it hurts to even admit it, but I wasn't marriage material at the time. I had a lot of work to do. And, even if I did get married, I'd be divorced because I was no good to nobody, even myself. Wow. No, absolutely no good. I would have, if somebody was crazy enough to marry me, I would have made his life probably hell, because that's just how, I thought that it was the responsibility of a man to make me happy. I didn't understand that was my job. And I didn't realize it until I started my journey doing the soul work in my 30s. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you got a lot of shit with you. And I mean, you read the book and you see where I mentioned I was speaking of my boyfriend at the time, and he threw it in my face, and he was like, look, you got some shit with you. You got to deal with it. And I really had to look in the mirror, and I had to say, look, you got some work to do, chick. You can't. And so, like I said, yeah, it bothered me in my younger years for people to think that way about me, but it was the truth. I was not wife material at all, because I just wasn't groomed to be somebody's wife. I wasn't even groomed to be loving and loyal to myself. I spent my whole life going against myself, because that's just how damaging it is when you two people come together and create a life that they themselves weren't even ready to create. That's why I tell people all the time, we have to start being mindful of how we bring children into the world, because we have to make sure that we're in the right space mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. If you are not in the right space when you're coming together and bringing children into the world, it's going to be hell for those kids.
All right. It's tough, man. I always felt like I knew it was, I know it'll never happen, but people should go to counseling before they become a parent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you should go to some parenting classes, and counseling should be a part of it. You know what I mean? I remember, and I had, I got married in my mid-20s. We waited 5 years before we started having kids. And when we decided to start having kids, and I found out I was going to be a father, I was scared to death. You know what I mean? I'm like,
I
look,
could only imagine.
and I wasn't even, you know what I mean? I wasn't young. I wasn't 18, 19, or 20 like some of my homies. One
Yeah,
of
you
my
was a
homies,
grown
man,
man.
yeah. I mean, one of my homies had his first kid when he was like 15, 16 years old. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
would
he's a
jump
kid.
off a cliff.
You know what I mean? And I'm sitting here like, yo, I would have been scared. I was scared to death at 30. You know what I mean? Having my first kid. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I've never had, a
Yeah,
life. I have never had a life that depended on me. I mean, obviously I have my wife, but she's an adult. You know what I mean? This is a baby. I have to, this baby can't eat without me.
yeah,
She can't take a bath. She can't clean herself without me. That's a
totally
huge
dependent on
responsibility.
you.
And I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, yo, look, you know, these days of, I wasn't someone who played around or who kind of lollygagged, but when I found out I was going to be a father, I was like, playtime is over. You know what I mean? I have somebody who's looking at me all the time. You know what I mean? Who's looking to see how I handle things, how I respond to certain behaviors. You know what I mean? And it's important now because I'm setting, my life is setting up my children to be able to understand the dynamics of a relationship. I
Yeah,
look at how I treat my wife and I say, okay, my daughter's looking. That's my biggest fear. I've said it here on the Man Cave before.
yeah.
My biggest fear as a man, as a father, is my daughter falling in love with a Dusty. You know what I mean? And there's nothing I could
But
do
she
about it.
won't.
I can't tell her
she,
nothing. I can't
she
go
won't.
get her. She want that Dusty meat, and I can't do nothing about it. You know what I'm
But
saying?
she
And
won't,
then
Frank, because of the example. Listen, when my brother was in his teens, one thing he said to me that stuck out. He says, "You know what, sis? You know, I be dating these bitches, man." And that's how he talked back then. He don't talk like that no more.
mhm,
But he said, I can tell who has a healthy father figure and who doesn't, just based on how they are around me.
right,
He said the ones who have a father, they're more calm, they're more stable, they kind of know what they want and they kind of chill. He said, but them ones who ain't got no daddy, he said they get in the car, they be ready, you know. I'm not gonna go into detail about what happened in his vehicle, but you know,
right. I mean, and
he
honestly,
just said he noticed the difference.
yeah,
So
shout out this young brother here, man. This young brother Chris, man. He's a young up and comer, man. If y'all don't know about this brother, you know what I mean, y'all are losing out. Young brother, 20 years old. He just hit,
oh, he's
1,000
young,
subs today. Yeah, young brother, man. Got his
young
head
and
on
fresh.
right, man. Smart. You know what I mean? Very articulate, man. He just hit 1,000 subs today. I had to message him on Instagram to congratulate him. But this brother's next up, man. If y'all don't, please subscribe to this brother's channel, man. He has game for days, man,
Yeah, the
weeks, months,
Cougars like
years.
men like him.
You know what I mean? I'm sure my man had a few, you know what I mean, or has been
I
enticed
used to
by a
hear
few.
old women talk when I
You know
was
what I
young.
mean?
They be talking about these dating them young guys. Girl, he can go all night, child. Woo!
Yo, I did it. You know what I mean? Like when I was 20 and I was in the army, I
Oh,
was
you was
dating
cracking backs, huh?
yeah, I would
Okay.
you know what I mean? I was a backcracker. You know what I
Oh,
mean? But yeah, I had a couple cougars out there. I hope they're doing all right. But yeah, but it's true. It's true what he said because a lot of brothers, man, we can scope out women who have, who don't have a father in their life, and when
yeah.
you have young, young minded men, men who vibrate on a lower level, they purposely gravitate to women like that because
Yeah.
you don't really have to be accountable a
To nobody.
masculine female. There's always an exit strategy with her. You know what I mean? So if you're not holding up your weight, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do as a man, and it doesn't work, you could just say, "Oh, well, she's masculine. She's slick with the mouth. She this, she that." When you with a feminine woman, let me tell you this something, fellas. When you're with a feminine woman, all of your exit strategies are gone. All of your excuses are gone. You understand what I'm saying? When that woman is saying, "Look, I love you and I'm going to follow your lead." When you walk in the door, I'm going to look nice. I'm going to have the house clean. I'm going to have some food cooking. It may not be finished yet, but it'll be finished in a few minutes. When she's playing her part, you have no excuses. You have no exit strategy. You have nowhere to hide. And so a lot of brothers are, who are young minded are very fearful of that. So even though they'll get on these social media platforms and they'll bash black women and they'll say they hate ratchets and I'm saving myself and I'm this type of pill or I'm over here, I'm going this way, whatever. A lot of those brothers love those type of women
They do.
because it allows them to not have to be who they need to be. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? If
Yeah.
if I'm dealing with a ratchet, I don't have to be masculine. I don't have to be a man. She's gonna play my role for me. I'm gonna get tired of. I'm gonna leave, and then I'm gonna blame it on her and say it's her fault.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying? But when you
That's
have
how
a
it works.
feminine woman, it's like that's how I live my life. I live my life, and as a father, I want to teach my kids that there are a lot of us who grew up who didn't have certain opportunities. We had to make a way out of no way. You know what I mean? We had to take lemons, make lemonade. But my responsibility as a father is to take that away from you, or not necessarily take it away from you, but to be there to guide you through it. So you have no excuses. You know what I mean? I don't want my kids to have excuses. I don't want them to be able to say, my father wasn't there, or my mother wasn't there,
Mhm.
or we didn't have money, or we lived in a bad neighborhood. And honestly, you talked about PG County, you were telling the truth because there are two types of PG County. I mean, there are two PG counties out here. There's one side that's over with the heights and all of that, and then
Mhm.
you got your Bowies, you got your Upper Marlboros, you got all of that, and so they act a little different. I did learn that. We probably are one of the most realest people in this neighborhood. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because people will look at me and they'll treat me like well, Frank. I mean, he gets busy, he dresses nice, but he don't look nice enough to live in a neighborhood like that. He don't, you know, he's not wearing certain type of gear that will let you know off top, like, okay, he live in Oak Creek or he live in certain such neighborhood or whatever. Like, I'm just a regular dude. I'm like, okay, look,
Mhm.
I'm,
But you
I'm
can
going to
get
let
away
certain
with it because you from out of town. See, me,
right,
I'm
right,
from
right.
DC. So when I'm around county folks and I start talking about, where I went to school, like I went to Eastern or I grew up, I used to live by Lincoln Heights or whatever,
Mhm.
people know that, or Benning Road, people know that's
Yeah,
ghetto. So
Bennett.
it's kind of like, well, you used to live where? You went to what school? Oh, no, you can't, no, you're not. Mm-mm. You can't, you're automatically disqualified from like that circle. So that was really the frustration, or the, like, where me and my mom bumped heads, because she was going to a church like out in Silver Spring, and
Mm,
these people were not rich, but they were upper level, like upper than we were. And she thought that she could, I guess, maybe kind of blend in with these people, or kind of, I guess, push me into maybe a potential relationship or a marriage. But they were like, nah, y'all can't. They'll be people, they will tolerate you and they'll be nice and cordial with you, I'll say. But I mean, as far as trying
mm,
to move into their lifestyle, or get into their circle, that's a no-no.
mm,
And yeah, I think that's where it was frustrating for me, because it was like, you want me to get married and you want me to move in or try to get in with these people, but you did not prepare me for this. You didn't prepare
right.
me for that. I don't know. I don't even know who I am. I wasn't even a good girlfriend. I didn't even know how to be somebody's girlfriend. So how can I be a wife?
Mm,
I couldn't cook. I have a driver's license. I had shit. But you want me to get
mm.
married?
So let
I
me
learned how
let
to
me ask you
cook when I
this.
moved. Okay, I'm sorry.
Let me ask you this. So
Mhm.
um you knew that you weren't, you know, a good girlfriend, or you didn't know how to be a good girlfriend.
Mm-mm.
Um, so I'm gonna ask this question to myself. I'm gonna answer it from a male perspective too. But why did you, if you knew you weren't where you needed to be, why date? Why even entertain someone if you knew that you
I wasn't.
couldn't be what you need to be for yourself?
I wasn't dating. My mother was trying to push me into marriage or trying to get me,
Oh, okay.
I guess off her hands.
Wow.
And that's
Wow.
that's why I said we bumped heads, because it was like you keep preaching marriage, but you did not prepare me for that.
Right.
I went from, I mean, I didn't even have a rite of passage. My mother treated me like a child up until I was 18. And then when I graduated from high school, it was like, okay, well, you grown now. So I didn't even have that preparation to womanhood. When I was with Roderick, you know what he said to me?
What do you say?
He said, I'm really not in a rush to meet your mother because quite frankly, I don't even like her. And I said, why is that? He said, because I could tell she didn't teach you shit.
Mm. Yo, yo, I'm gonna tell you something about Roger, man. Shout out to him. I never, sadly, I never had a chance to meet him. He passed away. But he said a lot of things to you that a lot of guys think that most brothers would never tell a woman. Like, a lot of us think it, but he was one of the few brothers that I know that was bold enough to say it.
Oh,
You know what I
he
mean?
he was he had no. That's why a lot of people didn't like him, because he spoke his mind. He had no fear. He didn't. If you
No,
didn't like him,
man.
he didn't care. He was like, look, I
Yeah,
don't give a
no,
shit.
no filter.
Yeah, that's Scorpio energy. He didn't care.
Oh yeah, he was a Scorp too. Shout out to him. It,
Mhm.
I just I think we're doing I think that parents are doing these kids a disservice by, especially mothers and daughters, because you see it like mothers coddle, especially in our community, mothers coddle sons. They baby sons a lot of the time. You know what I
I've
mean?
seen that too.
Um, sons can stay in the crib 20, 30, 40 years, they're in the crib, haven't left, might go to school, come back, whatever. They get coddled. But a lot of times from where I sit, I wouldn't see the moms coddle the daughters like that. It was like, I'm gonna rush. And when they get 18, I'm really gonna teach them nothing. I'm gonna do the bare minimum. I'm gonna make sure they fed, whatever. They got a nice little hairdo. And then when they get 18, they up out of here. Especially if they're of the mentality where they're trying to still live their own life. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like at a certain point in their life, their daughter becomes competition. I can't have her walking around here, you know what I mean? And,
Oh
and,
yeah,
and
I'm telling you, that
and-
competition ain't no joke, man. Whoo!
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like Shahrazad Ali said, we a lot of these women, they're not raising their children. They maintain them until they become 18, and it's like, okay, we'll get the hell on.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
never, it's funny because I never understood. Like, I used to hate when I was a kid, and I would hear older people would always say, "Well, I don't know what's wrong with these kids. That's a cursed generation, and they out here running wild. They done lost their way. They ain't going to church."
and they
And I
didn't
know how
teach
you
us
feel about the
nothing.
church, and didn't teach them nothing though.
They didn't teach
You know what I mean?
us
You didn't teach them
damn
nothing. Like
thing.
you knew. Like, I'm gonna tell you like this: you don't even have to be a parent to do what I'm about to say. If you have information, if you have knowledge, it is your duty to give it. Somebody gave it to you.
They
Somebody,
don't have it though.
somebody gave you. And if you like, you have it through your own experiences though. Like me, my man Chris, who's in here, who does great content. A lot of our content comes from our experices.
Yes.
I'm someone who's whole enough to come on here and say, look, I did a whole live, on the eve of my wedding anniversary, and I told my whole story, like from
Yeah.
my whole dating story when I was in my 20s, and
Mhm.
I was simping hard. You know what I'm saying? Like I had moments of where I was simping, where I was addicted to the simp. You know what I mean? I was on it bad. I was itching. You know what I'm saying? I was scratching all of that. But I was able to see. I was able to say, look, man, I came up out of that. You know what I'm saying? So your experiences teach you certain things. They're supposed to show you certain things, and it is your obligation, is your duty to give that information out to the next generation coming up.
The key
These
word you
these
said.
young these young girls should not be making the same mistakes that our generation of women made. They
But see,
should
that's the
not.
problem. They're not, nobody's viewing them as a mistake. It's a way of life. And
Mm, mm,
even, me and my grandmother, we got into it a couple of months ago because I told her basically because she was questioning and going on about why I'm not married or whatever. And I said, let me tell you something. You have not prepared me for any type of marriage. I said, this family has a lot of work to do. Y'all got a lot of cleaning up to do. And I said, but you know what? Maybe you don't because y'all old and you it's pretty much over for you all. So you bringing children into the world and y'all are just living in survival mode and doing whatever. But for some reason, you think it's our job to give you tradition when you didn't even give it to us.
right.
So why are we having this conversation about marriage?
Right. And these are some of the same people who will come back and look at us and say, y'all don't show us no respect. You know what I mean? Where's the
Yeah,
respect for your elders? I'm like, what?
yeah.
Listen,
But there,
look,
and I told her, I said, your ways don't work. They haven't worked. So, we got into it because she was upset because when I opened a can of peaches and I didn't take the lid off. And she said, well,
mm,
my mother would have yelled at me because I didn't take the lid off. I said, what difference does it make? It's a goddamn lid. I'm just gonna dump the peaches in the fucking bowl and I'm gonna throw it out. Why is this even a topic? But it was more about control
right.
because of her mother. My great grandmother was born in 1910. This is 2020. What y'all did back in after the Civil War is irrelevant. We don't do that shit no more.
Right.
But you want to pick a fight because of a can of peaches because you didn't like the fact that I didn't take it all the way off. I just took it halfway off to pour it in the bowl.
Yeah, man.
But it's dumb shit like that we have to deal with. I mean, as women, this is the stuff that we go through. Just basic stuff that's irrelevant. It shouldn't have even been a conversation. I'm over here pouring the peaches. Don't tell me how to pull the lid off. It's not even a conversation.
Right. Yo, and I know, I got my sister on over here at Shantelle. You know what? I know you got some stuff cooking too in the future. You know what I mean? I can't wait for it to come out because I can't wait to promote it. And and I would love to have you on the show too because it's a lot of it's a lot of wisdom in this group, man. It's a lot of people that I've met over the years. You know what I mean? And the defense team and stuff like that who've been dropping nothing but gems, and I can't wait. And so
Mm-hmm.
I know we're in the man cave right now. So there's gonna be a brother who's gonna listen to this and say, Frank, what are you doing, man? Like, why you got these females over here talking about this stuff? Let me tell you something. Because number one, I respect, the feminine principle. That's number one. You know what I mean? I'm not somebody who's gonna go at women all the time, bash them and all of that. Nah, I'm very much a lover of women, of the woman. That's number one. Number two, I did this primarily, also because I want you brothers to understand context. And a lot of brothers don't understand that.
They
What
sure
we're
do.
talking about tonight, what we're talking about with these beautiful sisters like Shantelle MB, Miss V, and a
Mm-hmm.
few others have talked about is what goes on in their mind. This is what goes on in their spirit, in their psyche. And these are some of the things that get brought to you, to your attention when you guys are in a relationship and you don't understand where it come from. You know what I'm saying? This right here is your open book test. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You can pass the
yeah,
test, read the notes, read the book. The book is
yeah.
wide open tonight.
For some
You know what I mean?
reason, black men think that because they grew up in a dysfunctional single parent home, they don't understand that a lot of times it affects us as well. And I understand when I hear black men talk, like I think I was watching because I follow Dennis Perling on Facebook, and
Yep. Yep.
he made a post about, he said, was it a video or post? But he said, if you were raised women who were raised around each other with no husbands or no fathers or whatever, that's a survival unit. And when he said that, I was like, damn, that perfectly sums up my life. I was, you living in survival mode. But
Right.
when they talk about the dysfunction of the black community or the matriarch, they don't realize is that some of us, as women, we are affected by that. A lot of us, we don't carry on that dysfunction. Some
Right.
some people, and I said this I was talking to somebody earlier, and I said for some reason I wasn't allowed to be dysfunctional. Now, everybody else got a pass or whatever, whatever. But for some reason, I was supposed to know better. And I had this. I got into it with my cousin a couple of years ago. We were out. Was it Red Lobster, whatever? And I said basically, what I said earlier. My mother never married, but I don't understand this whole requirement of marriage for me. Like, where y'all get that from? And my
Right.
cousin says, "Well, your mother never met the right one." And I said, "Excuse me?" Or she never met the right one, or quote unquote the one. And I said, so, and it was kind of like, it was like, wow, it was kind of like an insult or kind of like a jab, because it was like, so basically you're saying my father wasn't the one.
Right.
You're saying my sister's father wasn't the one. So basically, y'all are allowed to just go around and sleep and have babies with whomever until you find the right one. But I wasn't allowed to do that. I was supposed to just be on the straight and narrow. Like, that don't make sense to me. So it's not hard for me to call out bullshit when I see it.
Mm.
So when I hear men like you or Gabe or Dennis and many others, when you speak out about this dysfunctional matriarchy, yes, I can agree, because I see it. A lot of women don't see it because they're entangled. Yeah, I'm using that word, entanglement. They're entangled in that dysfunction. And
Right.
maybe it works for them, but for me it didn't work. It didn't work for me. I saw things from a different perspective based on the standards that were set for me. But I agree with y'all. And we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to improve ourselves and become better so we can come together and couple up and try to at least build something. I mean, I don't plan on having kids. I mean, you know, when I was a Roderick, yeah, we were planning it. And it was funny because I didn't even know when I first met Roderick. And it was funny because I called Nicole and I got a one-on-one. I
Mm-hmm.
thought he had 4 children. I was under the impression that that's what he had, but turns out he had 9, 11 children. He had all these kids, and I was like, it's like, dude, what the? You
Mm.
got all these dang on kids. I mean, they were grown, which was a plus, but I mean, like I said, I don't plan on having kids, but I mean, I would like to couple up with somebody and try to build, something, because I don't want to spend the rest of my life alone. But, you know, we're on the same boat here, the ones who are trying to do the right thing. So, sometimes it's disheartening when I hear this whole battle and this bumping heads of black men and women, knocking heads with each other. But I mean, there are some of us who see the dysfunction, and we're trying to make improvements and do the right thing to move forward with this
Right.
thing. So yeah.
Right. And it's so, and over here, all of the content is going to be focused on, or and has been focused on, bringing both men and women to the table.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it from a bird's eye view, we both, like one of the ladies said in the chat, you know, men, as men, we don't. I don't believe that men have a patent on dysfunction, or grown up in dysfunction, and having to work my way through dysfunction and find myself.
Hmm.
Black women grew up in the same households we grew up in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of these women are your sisters, your cousins, whatever. You know what I mean? And they grew up in the same environment, the same struggle. You know what I mean? And they kind of, and if we're being honest, it hits women a little bit harder, because men,
It does.
you have to understand the science of manhood. Man, like, when you look at it historically, men have been the warriors. Men have been the soldiers. Men have been the killers. That's who we've been. For us to be that, we have to put ourselves in a certain space mentally, which means that we have to put ourselves in a certain mental space where we don't feel. You know what I mean? Building
Mm.
something doesn't require me to feel. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I'm a get heavy. Building don't have to. I don't have to be required. I don't have to feel in order to build. I don't have to feel in order to be a warrior, or to take a life, or to go out here and kill something so that we can eat. I don't have to. Actually, feeling makes me worse at doing that. Having a
Mm.
sense of compassion and empathy makes me worse at doing my job for the most part. That's why, um, so for a lot of men, we don't show it, we don't feel. You know what I mean? So
Mm,
we get in relationships and women are like, I don't understand. He won't talk. He won't open up. We're not designed to do that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? We
yeah,
we're wired a certain way where we have to minimize that in order to be, or where we're taught, where it's understood, where we have to minimize those certain things about our life in order to be that
yeah,
masculine builder, protector, warrior type. Okay, where women, because of her essence and her role on this planet, her emotions are heightened. Her ability to feel and empathize and absorb is heightened more so than a man. So she's taken in more dysfunction and trauma in that household than I ever could as a man. I mean, if we
yeah.
just perfectly being honest,
Because
you know what I'm saying? Like,
we're natural absorbers and sponges, so we take in
right.
we take in so much. Yeah,
Right. And so we're in that environment where we're all dealing with this together. And then so we're in survival mode. You know, we're fighting for scraps. You know what I mean? We're fighting to survive. And so now we're arguing at each other because, you know, well, you're not surviving right, or no, you're not surviving right, or you're not, like we're all in survival mode. And so we need to
yeah.
come to the table
But
to be honest.
it's survival mode, but it's from the perspective of the whole. It's matriarchy because everybody's raised the same way by the same dysfunctional mother. This is why we
Right,
can't connect because we lack that masculine counterpart.
right,
And but it affects us differently, but nobody wants to sit and really self-reflect. I'm saying it specifically for women because I know there are a lot of women out here who bash black men and say, well, they're this and they're that. I I get phone calls from people, female friend in particular, and she calls me a lot about men, and I have to tell her and educate her. I said, sweetheart, men do not communicate that way. They are not like us. You can't. You have to give them their space. You have to pay attention to their actions. I don't stop listening to what they're saying. What are the actions? Well, he called sometime and then sometime he disappeared. And I said, well, pay attention to the actions. Because if he were consistent and he were coming after you, that says something. But if he's not, then that means he don't want to be bothered. And you have to accept that. It's okay. If he don't want you, he don't want you.
mm,
We can't tell people that they supposed to like us. If they like us, fine. If they don't, that's still okay. You just got to move on. And
yeah,
that's another issue too, because we can't. When we grow up without men, we don't even know how to relate to them or relate to their actions. We think they communicate like us. Well, he's not talking. He's not saying anything. I said because that's not how men communicate.
right. You're viewing him through,
The lens
the
of a
only lens
woman.
that you have. Right, right. You're viewing him through the lens of a woman. So you're putting female expectations on a man.
Exactly. And that's what I told
You
her.
know
I
what I
said,
mean?
"Sweetie," I said, we can't do that. We
Right.
can't listen. I told her, I said, when I first started dating Roderick, um, early on, and I get and maybe it was a mix of like a shit test or whatever, but I let him do whatever. I said, if he wants me or he wanted whatever, fine. If not, and he would go days. I think the longest he went without calling me was like maybe a week. And I think he went home to Louisiana for Mardi Gras or some shit. But he didn't call and I didn't bother him. I was like, look, if he want me, he want me. If he don't, whatever. And I was doing my thing, revising my book and doing my feet and washing my hair and doing all kinds of stuff.
Mm,
And he came back and he made, we committed to each other. But I tell her, I said the reason why he committed to me because he knew that uh I was going to let him be who he, I'm comfortable with giving a man his space. I didn't smother him. I didn't bother him. I didn't call him, harass him. You ain't called me all week, motherfucker. I'm gonna come up there and bust your car window. I didn't come to his job. I didn't make no scene. I didn't do nothing. And I said, you have
mm,
to get to that point where you just have to let men come to you when they want you. And if they don't, that's still okay. It's not up to us to dictate how they should feel about us.
right.
Because that's
And,
what I
and we
felt like she was doing. She wanted him to like her. But I said, okay, if he don't like you, so what? That's his right. He don't nobody have to like you. But she didn't like that I said that.
not only, you know, it's not even, it's more so, it's more than the like part too, because it's like you want me to like you, but then you want me to like you the way that you want me to do it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I can't move
Control.
like that. Right.
Control.
It's a control thing.
Hmm. But
And when
that's
you
what I was getting
control,
from her.
and when you get to a point where you're controlling as a woman or as a man, it as a man also, it's like you on the inside, it's a certain level of insecurity that comes with it, because when you're trying to control things all the time, what you're really saying is that I'm afraid. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah,
afraid
that's
of
what it
losing.
was.
I'm afraid of losing, so I want to do whatever I can to control the situation so that I don't have
Hmm.
to lose it. Because if it's
Yeah.
not in my under my control, then it could walk away, and I'm left hanging.
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to explain to her. But she grew up, it's different for me because my fatherless, it's fatherlessness and fatherless. And I think my situation was because my dad is gone, he's not here. But I noticed when I talk to women who grew up fatherless, but their fathers are not they're out there somewhere. It's just more, it's just a different the void is different. It's something I can't relate to because like I said, my father's dead, he's gone. I can't pick up the phone and call him.
Mm,
But when I tell her the truth, it just irritates her. And I noticed that women, that we just do not want that cold hard truth. We want to hear, we want to hear.
right.
And when I deal with women who grew up in with their fathers around, or if they grew up in a two-parent home, the vibe and their mentality is totally different. And that's why I tell people I believe in traditional family. I believe that children need two parents in their life because I see the difference. It is, you have your exceptions, but they aren't the rule. And I think that's another issue. And we look at the one or two people who did make it without a father, and then we want to base it on that. And I'm like, no, that they're exceptional, but we both need, you know, when I got, I think you read this in my book, but I talked about how I had to go around to different family members just to learn about my father
Hmm.
and to learn who he was. And me learning him helped me learn who I was because I didn't have that in my childhood. I didn't know who I was. I mean, my dad's cousin, he would see me writing, posts on Facebook, or he saw how I wrote, and he said, "You
Hmm.
write exactly like your dad. Like when you speak, when you write, it's just like him." And when he said that, it just made so much of a difference in me. But it was like the more I learned about my father and things that he liked, the things that he did, the place he would go, it helped me to heal, and it helped me to become one with myself. But this is why I tell people you need both parents, because two people come together and they make that one child. You are your mother and your father. We are our ancestors. But for some reason we think that we have this mentality of all we need is our mother. And I'm like, but what about the other side?
Yeah. So the name or the topic of this live tonight was called "Broken Women Raise Broken Children." So how does a woman know that she's broken? How can she, you know, how can she learn or know or realize that she's broken and that she's raising broken children?
That's a good question. um since I don't have children, I can only speak from the perspective of me being a daughter and how I grew up.
Hmm.
I never really viewed myself as broken. Being growing up the way I grew up was just normal to me. And it was never really, I never looked at it until I started to be around people who grew up in a two-parent home, or who live different than me. But I'll say it really hit me the hardest in my late 20s when my body gave out on me. My
Mm.
body was physically broken. I was always sick. I was always having back pain, joint pain. My hair was falling out. I was overweight. So my body was speaking to me.
Mm.
And I had to pay attention to that because I was in my late 20s, and that's young. I was still kind of, in my prime, but
Mm-hmm.
I felt like an old ass woman. I was tired. I
Mm.
had no energy. And I was like, well, why am I feeling this way as a young woman? So that for me, that was like my wake up call. That's when I knew that there was something going on with me. And I knew there was a root cause of my physical brokenness because I never felt, I guess, emotionally or spiritually broken. But I guess I was just numb because I was going through all of the depression and the trauma, and I was just out of touch with myself.
Mm.
But when I started doing that soul work, that's when everything started to make sense and everything came together. But the way you come together from your brokenness is by doing the work. You got to be real with yourself. And I was lucky and fortunate enough to come across men, my partners or my lovers, whatever you want to call it. They really came into my life and they really taught me so much about myself. And feel that they feel that fatherless void because the person Langston, who I referred to him in the book as Langston, he was a father.
Mm-hmm.
He had children, so he was a father. So, and I think I was talking to somebody before about this, and I said I noticed that as I got older, I was attracting men with children, and that was for a reason because I needed that father energy. I needed to be fathered, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the reason why I could never go forward because I came into the relationship. It started off as a partnership, but at some point it transitioned to more of a parent-child role. And this is why that childhood is so important because you're supposed to get all of that when you're in your youth. But since we
Right.
don't get it when we're young, it repeats in adulthood. So you're in your 20s and your 30s, you're thinking you're trying to form a relationship with somebody, you're going to move forward, but you really end up being taught because you're still stuck in that childhood. I mean, even when I was a Roderick, he fathered me a lot. And you've seen his pictures. He looks like a dad. But if
Mm-hmm.
you didn't know me and you saw us together, you saw a picture of me, you would probably think he was my father. Because his daughters look like they could be my sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a spiritual sense, that's what I needed. I needed these men to come into my life to fill that void, to teach me these lessons and to father me because of what I didn't get as a child. And I think a lot of Black women suffer from that because they're in their adulthood and they're trying to form a relationship, but they can't because of what they didn't get as children. So it's confusing to a lot of people.
Right.
And I think that's why they seek the control because they're out of control. That negative manifestation of so much feminine energy has caused them to be chaotic. So they're out of control. You
Yeah,
see?
especially the men, especially the men, you know what I mean, on our side of things, because, we have to have, I did a whole series on the African rites of passage. And,
Yes. Yes.
I talked about it because, we need, masculine energy around, it's
Yes. Yes.
very disciplined. It's very disciplined. It's very calming.
Structure.
It's very structured, direct to the point. And men need to understand how to do that. That there are going to be times in your relationship, it's very important because men, when I talked about the right of adulthood, and I talked about how young boys go through a rite of passage to become men. And, why do they do that? Like you see it all throughout history in different cultures. These young boys go out there and they may live in the woods or have to kill, a lion or something by themselves or whatever. They have to do something to validate and verify their manhood.
Yeah.
And it's important because, you know, the older they get, they're going to be put in situations where they're going to have to lead.
Yes.
and they're gonna and so you can't lead if you've never led anything. You know what I mean? You
Dang.
can't that rite of passage teaches you that, hey, look, you go back to that mentally, spiritually. You go back
Yes,
to
you
it
do.
emotionally, and you say, "Look, I was there. I was in the jungle, or I was out here, or I had to climb this wall, or I had to do whatever, and I had to do it on my own, and there was no one around. There was no one who was there to help me. I screamed, I cried, I yelled for my father, for my mother. They weren't there, and I had to learn how to be a man and wipe my face and put my anger to the side and figure out how am I going to get from A to B, and that's how I you know made it through that rite of passage and became a man, so that when I get older, when I'm leading a wife, when I have children, when I'm the head of a household, I can rely on those things when times get tough, because it does get tough. There's no man. Look, I know there are brothers out here who front like they're hard all the time, like they have it together all the time. It's not true. I don't care who you are. You don't. There are things that you don't know. There are decisions that you're going to have to make that you may be unsure of, but you put your best foot forward, because that's what a man is supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that's the blessing and burden of manhood, is that you're responsible for that house. It's your decisions, it's your vision that's leading and guiding that household. So if it's off, if that household is off, first and foremost, above everything, that means more than likely you're off. Your
Yeah.
manhood is off. Your leadership is
You
off.
got that right.
You understand what I'm saying? So, but a lot of these brothers don't have that masculine energy around them, so they don't know how to do that. So, you know, when they get put in certain situations, they act like a woman, or
So,
they handle them like a woman, or they look to the woman to handle it, because that's all they've ever known. They've never seen a man handle anything. And so, uh, uh, you got it, Tina.
no, I was gonna say, when I saw the picture of the person who shot Roderick, he was a young 20-year-old guy, but when I saw his picture, I said to myself, whatever went down, because I read that it was a dispute, that's why he was shot. I said, whatever went down or whatever was going on, I said that young man pulled that gun and pulled that trigger because he's not used to any masculine authority.
Right.
And I even had this discussion with Roger because, um, I was kind of worried about him because he will always express his frustration with a lot of these, these millennials and these Generation Z folks, males especially. And, he said to me, he said, baby, men ain't, they're not men no more. He said, when I was coming up, manhood, that was something that was, common. He said, but
Mm.
it's not that way anymore. He said, you can't even say that to nobody because they view you as being rude or toxic. And he even admitted that, the people that he was around, because, Roger was 6'2" and almost 300 pounds. He was a big guy,
Mm.
but he was he was like very extremely masculine, but he's a man. That's what he's supposed to be. But now people view masculinity as toxic. And it was very frustrating for him because he was just like, I'm a man. What do you want me to do? Act like a woman? I can't do that. I can't.
Right.
That's just
Right.
not how I am. But this is where we are now. And it's to me, it's like we're trying to make it normal or even kind of force men to be effeminate, kind of go against themselves and turn away from their masculinity because these women are taking on the masculine role, and it's like they're trying to put men in their feminine, if that makes sense,
Right.
which is
I mean,
backwards.
right. I mean, but when you're not accustomed to it, you're going to do what's natural to you. And unfortunately, in our community, um, it's become natural to us. And so that's
Yeah.
why I knew we had to do this live, because, I think women have to teach the next generation of women better. You know what I mean? I can't give it to them the way that you can, or Shantelle can, or Miss V or MB can. I can't do it. You know what I mean? I don't understand the emotional aspect of being a woman. I'm not supposed to understand it. I'm supposed to compliment it and respect it. You know what I mean?
Damn, that
And
was deep.
you know what I mean? It's, a lot of things are not for us to understand. You know what I mean? We spend a lot of time trying to understand it. Like, I don't understand why he does this, or I don't understand why he won't ever do this. You know, our job isn't necessarily to understand as much as it
It's
is to
not.
say, look, this is who he is. I love him. He's doing what he's supposed to do. So I need to compliment that. You know what I mean? I
And
need to compliment.
yeah, you do. Yeah, and the what you said earlier, you made a good point. You said we need to teach that to. I mean, as far as females. But the sad part is a lot of these women, they're so far gone into their masculine, or they've taken on this feminist ideology that, we can't even reach them because they're gone.
Right.
They're rebellious. They want to take down the patriarchy. They want to, I mean, me and my younger sister, we do not get along because we have our mindsets are totally different. She's just, she has that single mother mentality. So, she doesn't even understand me, why I didn't have children or why I even wanted to get married and do things quote unquote the right way. So, and I know years ago she was talking to this guy and I had to curse him out because he jumped on me basically saying, what kind of sister are you? You should have been a better, it doesn't seem like you were a proper influence for your younger sister. I don't know what I said to him, but I tore him a new asshole. But because I felt like it was like, well, she has a mother, and if her mother didn't teach her, what the hell do you think I'm supposed to be teaching her? Like, she's not gonna follow
Mm,
me because she looks at me as the weirdo.
mm,
Because I wanted to do things the right way. She looked at me wanting to do things the right way as stupid. Like, who wants to get married? Just have a baby and live your life.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Let me see what we got.
That's why when I read your post, I was like, yeah, this gonna be a good show because I could just talk about that. Yeah.
I see you, Coach Ali. That's my bro right there. Um, yeah, man. Shantina's heavy, man. She never disappoints at all. Um, I know
I think
we
I'm too
coming up.
heavy sometimes.
Nah, that's good though. You know what I'm saying? You know you, that weight. If it's too heavy, you know what I mean. It just gives us the opportunity to be able to, to be able to lift it, to get stronger. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think I
Yeah.
think it's important. And and we definitely need that.
Yes,
Um,
we do.
so I'm not gonna hold anybody much. I'm not gonna hold everybody any
Yeah, it's been
longer.
2 hours
Um,
now.
for sure, for sure. It's been a little over 2 hours. So I'm gonna let Shantina get some parting shots if you have any, and then we'll close it out.
You know what? I had so much fun, and I think it was because of this wine I've been drinking.
A
Because I'm
little
feeling
loose
so
over there.
good right now.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm feeling real good. But you know, I'm so thankful that we were able to come on and do this live, and um, just thank you for being open and allowing me to come on your platform and just to, you know, share my point of view. So I really appreciate everything that you're doing. So keep up the good work.
No, I got you. Um, I want to thank everybody for coming out, man. All the supporters of the channel. We're moving at a rapid pace. We're almost at 750 subs. I'm happy about that. The channel has grown probably 400 or 500, subs deep in the last 2 months or so since I started doing lives and putting out more content consistently. So I want to thank everybody for that. Um, we got a lot of work to do, man. Bottom line. And you know, we're not going to go where we need to go as far as men, women, being together, raising children, having strong communities. If we don't both come to the table and admit some harsh truths and say, look, I'm accountable for this. You know what I mean? Not doctor, but Shahrazad Ali always talks about how she says that, we both need to be examined. You know what I mean? The black man has been thoroughly examined, by the world and thrown under thrown in the dirt. And so black women, we have to be examined too. That's what she says. Black women need to be examined too. And that's the only way that we'll come up out of this, man. All the gender warring and pointing the finger and, you guys are doing this, well, you women are doing that. That's not going to work, man. You know what I mean? We're going to keep arguing and riding that hamster wheel, and everybody else is passing us by. Everybody else is building and controlling things and owning and operating things. And, and we're at, the beck and call of them. So we got to do that, man. But that's going to require some soul work. So if y'all do not have it, this is my sister's book, Soul Work, Soul Food, and Sea Change, Life Lessons in Retrograde from the House of El. It is on Amazon. I know a lot of people in the chat have bought the book, have read the book, are thoroughly impressed and got a lot out of the book. And you will as well if you have not. So you can go to Amazon and scoop that up. You can just type in Shantina Delaney and it'll pop right up. So on that note, I have not planned or scheduled my next live for next week, but I will do that in the next coming days or so. So be on the lookout for that. And on that note, y'all be good, be safe, and until next time.
Good night, all.
Good night.